I wore a dead man's face. And it remembered. The downtown station always felt wrong. Echoey, dimly lit, even when the sun was blazing outside. I hated taking the train, but it was the quickest way to get to my accounting job, the one I desperately needed. That morning, the platform was unusually crowded, a sea of faces blurring into a pre-caffeine haze. Then I saw him. Same ratty olive-green army surplus coat. Same scuffed brown work boots, the ones Mom had nagged him to replace for years. Same everything. It was David, my brother. Except, David was dead. 5 years dead. They said it was a drunk driver, a hit and run on a rainy night. I remember the hospital, the sterile smell, the doctor's grim face. I remember the funeral, the weight of the coffin, the feel of cold dirt on my hands as I threw a handful into the grave. I remember the emptiness, the soul-crushing, never-ending emptiness that's followed. And here he was, standing across the platform, waiting for the same train. He was thinner, gaunter than I remembered. His eyes, usually bright with a mischievous glint, were dull, almost vacant. But it was undeniably him. The way he stood, his hands shoved deep in his pockets, the slight slouch of his shoulders. The small, barely noticeable scar above his left eyebrow, a souvenir from a childhood tree-climbing incident. My breath hitched, my legs felt like lead. I wanted to scream, to run across the platform, to demand answers. But I couldn't move. I just stood there, frozen, staring. He glanced up, his eyes meeting mine for a split second. A flicker of something, recognition, crossed his face before he quickly looked away. The train screeched to a halt. The doors hissed open. He stepped inside. I remained rooted to the spot, watching as the train pulled away, his face disappearing into the blur of morning commuters. "Grief," Claire said at lunch, swirling her pasta with a fork. "It does things to you, makes you see things that aren't there. You're still processing, still hurting." Claire, my best friend since kindergarten, always had a rational explanation for everything. She was a therapist, for God's sake. Of course she'd say it was grief. And maybe she was right. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me, conjuring up a ghost to fill the void, but I couldn't shake the feeling that what I saw was real. 2 days later, I saw him again. This time at the mall, near the food court. The smell of greasy pizza and stale popcorn filled the air, a stark contrast to the chill that ran down my spine when I spotted him. He was standing by a fountain, staring blankly into the water. I pushed my way through the crowd, my heart pounding in my chest, determined to confront him this time. To ask him, to demand to know how he could be here. "David?" I called out, my voice trembling. He didn't respond. I quickened my pace, weaving through shoppers, my eyes fixed on his back. Just as I rounded a corner, he vanished. Gone. Like he'd never been there. Frustrated and shaken, I headed home. I felt like I was losing my mind. That evening, I was idly scrolling through my phone when I noticed a new photo in my gallery. I didn't remember taking it. It was him. A crystal clear shot of my brother, standing somewhere I didn't recognize, staring directly into the camera. His eyes were cold, almost predatory. His face was devoid of any emotion. It wasn't David's face. Not entirely. It was like a mask, a hollow imitation of the brother I knew and loved. The timestamp read 9:12 a.m. I hadn't even left my apartment until noon. I spent the next few hours poring over old photos of David, comparing them to the picture on my phone. Every detail matched. The scar, the shape of his nose, the way his hair curled slightly at the nape of his neck. But something was off. The life, the spark that had always been present in his eyes, was gone. Replaced by a chilling emptiness. Sleep was impossible. Every creak of the house sent shivers down my spine. Every shadow seemed to hold a menacing presence. I felt like I was being watched. Around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. An airdrop request. No name, just a blank space. I instinctively declined, dismissing it as spam. A few minutes later, it buzzed again. Same thing. This time, curiosity, or perhaps morbid fascination, got the better of me. I cautiously accepted the request. The image that appeared on my screen made my blood run cold. It was another photo of him. My brother. But this time, the background was undeniably familiar. It was my backyard. The overgrown flower beds, the dilapidated fence, and, most disturbingly, the young oak tree I had planted in his memory. I ripped back the curtains and peered into the darkness. The backyard was empty. The tree stood silhouetted against the faint glow of the streetlights. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. That somewhere in the shadows, he was there, observing me. I didn't sleep at all that night. Every sound, every rustle of leaves sent me spiraling into a panic. The next day, I bought a new phone. New number, new everything. I even changed my email address, hoping to sever any connection to whatever was happening. I thought I was safe. I thought it was over. I was wrong. That evening, I was working on my laptop when a notification popped up in the corner of the screen, new file received. My heart leaped into my throat. I hesitated, my hand hovering over the mouse. Every instinct screamed at me to shut it down, to delete the file, to pretend it wasn't happening. But the morbid curiosity, the desperate need to understand what was going on, was too strong. I clicked on the notification. The file opened. It was a photo of me, asleep, in my own bed. The image was sharp, clear, and unsettlingly intimate. It was taken from the corner of my bedroom, the angle suggesting the photographer had been standing there for a while, just watching. My breath caught in my throat. I slammed the laptop shut, my hands trembling. I jumped up, frantically checking the locks on the doors and windows. I armed the security system, even though I hadn't used it in years. I was no longer just scared. I was terrified. This wasn't grief. This wasn't a hallucination. This was something else, something sinister, something that was hunting me. I called Claire, my voice a shaky whisper. He's here, Claire. I know it. He's watching me. Who's watching you? She asked, her voice laced with concern. David, I choked out. My brother. He's alive. Or something that looks like him is. I told her everything, the sightings at the station and the mall, the photos on my phone, the airdrop request, the picture on my laptop. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Okay, she said finally, her voice calm and measured. I'm coming over. Don't open the door for anyone, not even if they say it's me. I waited for her, huddled in the corner of my living room, every muscle tense, my eyes darting towards every shadow. The minutes stretched into an eternity. Every creak of the house, every rustle of leaves outside the window, sounded like footsteps approaching. When the doorbell finally rang, I nearly jumped out of my skin. I peered through the peephole. It was Claire. I unlocked the door and let her in, throwing myself into her arms. She held me tight, whispering reassurances. Okay, she said, pulling back. Let's think this through. Show me the photos. I showed her everything, the photos on my old phone, the one on my laptop. She studied them carefully, her brow furrowed in concentration. It's definitely him, she said finally, her voice low. But something's not right. He looks different. That's what I've been saying, I exclaimed, relief flooding through me. I'm not crazy, am I? No, she said, shaking her head. You're not crazy. But this is beyond my expertise. We need to go to the police. The police were less than helpful. They listened to my story with thinly veiled skepticism, attributing it to stress and unresolved grief. They took a report, but I could tell they didn't believe me. Feeling defeated, I returned home with Claire. We decided to spend the night together, barricading ourselves in the living room, armed with a baseball bat and a healthy dose of paranoia. Around 2 a.m., we were jolted awake by a loud bang. It sounded like something had hit the back door. We exchanged a terrified glance. Claire grabbed the baseball bat. I grabbed my phone. Stay here, she whispered. I'll check it out. No way, I said, shaking my head. I'm coming with you. We crept through the darkened house, our hearts pounding in our chests. The only sound was the frantic thumping in my ears. As we approached the back door, we heard another bang, louder this time. And then a scraping sound, like something was trying to force its way in. Claire raised the baseball bat, her knuckles white. I fumbled with my phone, trying to dial 911. We reached the back door and peeked through the small window. Standing on the other side was him, David. His face was pressed against the glass, his eyes wide and vacant. He was smiling, but it wasn't a smile of joy or recognition. It was a grotesque, twisted grin that sent a shiver down my spine. He raised his hand and began to scratch at the glass, his nails leaving deep, jagged marks. I screamed. Claire swung the baseball bat, smashing the glass. David stumbled back, momentarily stunned. We didn't hesitate. We ran. We fled the house, not stopping until we reached Claire's car. We sped away, leaving behind the shattered window and the horrifying image of my brother's face pressed against the glass. I don't know what it is that's wearing his face. I don't know what it wants. But I know one thing. It's not David. And it's not going to stop until it gets what it wants. And I have a sickening feeling it's me. I'm writing this down as I stay in a motel far away from my town. I can't trust anyone. I will keep writing as long as I can. If you are reading this, please be careful. The face you know may be a lie.